Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 119 January Board of Education meeting of the Horsehead Central School District. We live stream and bring this to you so that those that can get out and those that cannot get out will always have a record of what the Horsehead Central School District Board of Education does at its monthly meetings. We will be starting our budget meetings coming up in February, and then they will be occurring, and please check the schedule on our website. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's meeting is in MMC, and at this time I turn it over to our board president, Ms. Christine Day.
Okay, good evening. Can you please join me in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up on our meeting tonight is the approval of our minutes from December 20th. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Any comments or questions related to these minutes? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? All right, now's the time of the meeting where we open it up for anybody in the community that has any comments or questions. I would ask you to come up to the podium, state your name and your address. Just a reminder, we do not talk about any personnel in this open comment session, and you're limited to 10 minutes. So anybody that would like to address the board, you're welcome to do so now. Okay. Just a reminder to everybody, our board meetings are open, they are public, so anytime anybody in the community does have a question or a comment, they are more than welcome to come to the board. It is not meant to be a two-way dialogue. It's meant for the board to listen, and then we can follow up at a later time if there's any specific thing that needs to be followed up on. So I'm going to turn it over to Tatiana, our student representative.
Good evening, members of the board and the Horseheads community. I am Tatiana Kopp, and welcome to the student representative report of today's meeting. I hope you all had as wonderful of a start to your new year as the Horseheads High School did. Yesterday, our girls wrestling team had an incredible match against Athens at Elmira College, with Lily Vasek and Caitlin Wheeler each winning a match. They also recently placed 3rd overall at the Southern Tier Memorial Wrestling Tournament on January 14th. We wish them the best of luck as they continue to thrive throughout their season. Indoor track has a meet tomorrow, Friday the 20th, at Ithaca College with doors opening at 4 p.m. Please consider coming out to support all of the incredible athletes who will be participating. The Unified Raiders and GAC invites everyone to join them in making posters tomorrow after school in room 121. These posters will be used for the Unified Raiders esports team being runner-up in the inaugural Mario Kart Nationwide Championship Trophy presentation held on January 26th at the middle school during 10th period. Additionally, these posters will also be used for Unified Bowling Senior Night that will be held on February 16th. Student Council will be holding a winter semi-formal dance, Snowcoming, which will be held on Saturday, February 11th from 6:30 to 9:30 at the middle school gym. Tickets will be available for purchase for $10 the week of February 6th, so consider coming out for a fun-filled night. The Horsehead Blue Raider Marching Ensemble hosted their annual season banquet on January 9th, which included a recap of the season as well as senior star ceremony. This event was heavily attended with multiple members of both our faculty and administration taking part. Thank you for joining us to celebrate the end of another successful season. As the Horseheads Green Room Players quickly approaches their spring musical, they are currently selling business ads to be featured in their upcoming program for The Little Mermaid. If you would like your business to be featured, feel free to reach out to any member for more information. The Gay Straight Alliance would like to express their gratitude to the Board of Education for their recent approval of the GSA advisory as a stipend position. They are excited for the future of the club and all of the wonderful opportunities this will bring them. Lastly, I am very excited to announce that due to prior obligatory engagements in preparation for the spring musical, for the February and March upcoming board meetings, alternate student board representative Mario Ruggiero will have the absolutely wonderful opportunity to present the student representative report to you all. I look forward to joining you back in April through the remainder of the year, and know that Mario will do an absolutely wonderful job of presenting to you all. My months will not be the same without the absence of these school meetings, so I very much look forward to them. I really do, I swear. And I hope you all have an incredible rest of your night, and I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. I love your updates. So energetic, so exciting. Thank you very, very much. Next, we have our presentations.
At this time, I'd invite Mr. Gill and our athletic director, Mr. Tay.
Good evening. I'll just speak briefly, and then I'll make the presentation set up for Charles. Tonight we have extracurriculars, and we focus on our athletics and physical education. One been a goal of the district to focus on these two areas, specifically in my role, the curriculum area, and working with my team on moving that forward with the 2020 PE standards. So most of the presentation will focus around some of the work we've been doing in athletics recently. There'll be a brief little aside to talk about some extracurriculars and some of the things that we do there, to point out some places that we should focus on when it comes to non-athletic extracurriculars. I know we'll talk about student code finish. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Charles and finish up.
Good evening. I did not get an opportunity to talk to you guys a lot, so I just want to say thank you for your support of obviously phys ed, but also athletics as well. It's very much appreciated and it helps us get where we want to go. So thank you for that. So I'm going to talk about a lot of different things. Starting with phys ed, I am the director of physical education. Many people don't see me in that role, but it's the priority of my job. And we're going to start with phys ed. Okay. And then we're going to kind of transition into athletics and talk about our kind of participation numbers. I will say, before we get into this, compared to other stacked schools that I hear monthly, this is very positive for us. Other schools are not in these positions, so as we go through, kind of keep that in mind. In comparison, we're doing very, very well across the board. But some more information. So we're talking about phys ed curriculum, athletics, extracurricular activities, and then extracurricular code of conduct, which is a change. And I wanted to bring that to you guys earlier, but at least we'll get to do that tonight. Also, even though I'd say we're in a really good place, we always want to be better than where we're at. So we're always trying to improve, and we'll talk about that as well. So phys ed. Phys ed presents so many different things. We always think about the physical aspect of it, but it is so valuable in many areas. So physical health, mental health, the social skills, self-esteem, obviously character building. So a lot of this, I'm still getting up to speed on it with the 2030 and the portrait of a graduate. But phys ed really helps us achieve all these different goals that we have. And when we talk about curriculum coming up, a lot of these things are really the founding blocks of where we want to go. But all things that we contribute have been shown to increase academic performance. And that's really the value of phys ed, not just meeting those 5 areas, but influencing the academic performance in every class. Currently, we want to use phys ed as an opportunity to provide opportunities that are an extension of the classroom and take all the great things in phys ed and expand them to after-school hours and different things. So right now, here's where we currently stand. Intramural program is a huge thing we're going to talk about more in a second, but right now we have one of our 4 elementary schools, Ridge Road, currently offering intramurals. Again, 100 to 200 annually impacted, which is great. We have morning gym occurring at Garden Road in the morning, so 25 to 35 impacted. And the weight room program. We have instituted a weight room program for our athletic program, but we also provide open opportunities for anyone to take advantage of, especially students who need to make up a PE class or earn some credit back. That weight room is available. So we are impacting kids outside of phys ed as well. So again, we want to get better. We want to improve our opportunities, and here's kind of the blueprint of what we want to do. First thing is intramurals. We want to expand intramurals, get back to how I've heard was the glory days of intramurals before I was here, but get intramurals at every level. So all of our elementary schools doing it, our middle school, our high school, everybody offering intramural opportunities, and I'd like them to align with our athletic seasons, which would be awesome. And also offer some sports that we don't have a season for, which is a small number, but They're out there. And of course, we want to use them to support that phys ed curriculum and teach all those 5 areas that we talked about earlier. Second thing we really want to do is assist in the development of clubs that allow for outdoor activities. In phys ed, we'll talk more, but there were different strands that were created starting this year. And one of those strands is outdoor activities. And we're seeing an increase in interest from students when it comes to fishing or archery or skiing. And providing those opportunities through a club, working with Principal Earl at the high school especially, will be important to reach more kids. Second one, third one, we want to create opportunities for students to be involved in intramurals, not just as an athlete or participant in the physical sense, but also in all those other opportunities. Keeping the scoreboard, keeping stats, being an official. You know, we have an official shortage. Let's get kids interested in it now with the experience. So reaching more diverse kids in terms of what they can present to an intramural setting will help. The biggest piece of phys ed, though, and what's going to really drive this is our curriculum. And we started this summer. We had 14 of our 16 phys ed teachers present for a pretty intensive curriculum writing opportunity. That's an exciting number for me. I was very excited to see that many there and that many hands-on. They're excited to rewrite our curriculum really from a backward design. And instead of focusing on just kids graduating with a knowledge of sports, we want them to graduate with those core characteristics that we want them to graduate with. So it was pretty impressive to see, pretty eye-opening for some of our teachers when we told them the unit wasn't basketball, but it was responsibility. They were like, well, what do you mean? But very good work. We're going to continue that work. And we're using the new standards, which just came out a couple years ago. And the biggest one, I haven't listed there, but there's a couple that are really important. This one, demonstrate knowledge and skills to maintain a health enhancing level of physical activity and fitness. That's really a primary focus. And intramurals helps with that, for sure. Continue, there's some more up there. Again, we're going to hit all these standards throughout our curriculum, and we hope to extend that throughout our work. So let's talk about that structure that we kind of made a change to. How phys ed used to be is there was a set curriculum with all a bunch of different sports, and every kid would go through those. And what you get is you get a bunch of students who, if they don't like football, they have a very difficult 4 or 5 weeks. If you don't like pickleball, you have a very difficult 4 to 5 weeks. So instead of making kids take certain things, we allow them some choice. And when choice comes from that internal motivation, then we take advantage of that. So in 9th grade, students are going to get a splattering of everything. They're going to get to taste it all and develop those likes and dislikes. In 10th through 12th grade, they will get to pick a strand per semester. And the 4 strands are identified up there. But the first one is team games. So that's what we're talking about here, traditional sports. Fitness is the second strand. That is using platform program for weightlifting. It's individualized, and it's very hands-on. It'll teach them a lifelong skill. The third one is individual. So we're talking golf, table tennis, badminton, sports where you play one-on-one, sometimes 2-on-2. And then outdoor, that strand. Biking, skiing, hiking, canoeing. That's a whole other strand that those kids usually get left out a lot in traditional phys ed curriculums. So this year, we've begun this. We have seen increased participation in phys ed class, the ability to use that motivation and that selection to dive deeper into these subjects, but overall, to teach a lifelong skills that they'll take with them upon graduation, along with the characteristics.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Will that carry over to the students that have in 11th and 12th grade where they have a semester where it's their personal fitness plan as well, where they have a broader range of things that they can enter in for that?
That's correct. Yeah, the personal fitness plan is something that we're currently reviewing. It's something we've done for a long time. I think there's a lot of ways to improve that as well, and that's something the phys ed team has talked about. And yes, we want to create more motivation and freedom for students to do things that they're actually going to use when they graduate, instead of forcing them to do specific things they may not like and really isn't going to benefit them beyond 12th grade. So we do have to look at that, and we are looking to expand.
Question.
Yeah, sure.
On the, just the intramural concept,
Yeah.
which I think, that's a great goal to expand that across all levels.
Yes.
Just for understanding, like does that require additional funding? What are the impediments to doing that, or what can the board do to help with that, if anything, is what I'm wondering about.
Well, I don't think really it's not gonna incur any more costs. We pay teachers at intramural rates right now. We have the funds to use. So I don't think that's the case. Really, it's structured, it's promoting it. Right now in high school, we are doing a volleyball intramural. 45 students signed up. And we're currently running that just to kind of get the intramural name back out there. But there is a massive interest. So getting people to run it will be important, and those people have to be strong. But I don't think there's much else other than that, just promoting it and understanding it will impact our athletic schedule. I happen to be the director of athletics too, so I think we'll be okay there. But other than that, it's really just understanding we want to increase the opportunities for everyone, and intramurals is going to do that.
Chuck, I'll step in briefly. You recall, some of you may recall, it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago, the board and the public approved the addition of intramurals back into, after it had been cut previous, 2009, or whatever it was. So a substantial amount of money was put aside for this purpose. I think what we're seeing now is just the capacity of post-COVID of students or needing people to offer opportunities. And getting back to, as he said, the heyday when we had every building doing something. I think it's just post-COVID kind of getting the resources and the capacity back in place. Looking back at the financials that we put in place 7 years ago to the board.
So, just to kind of set the tone here for athletics, everything starts with phys ed. And in my personal belief, strong athletic programs come from a strong physical education program. And they kind of go into each other. So when we talk about athletics, and again, compared to our stacked counterparts, we are in a very, very, very good position. I want to show the current opportunities that we have. And I think, again, you guys have done a phenomenal job in supporting our athletics and helping us expand, even during the time where most schools are cutting teams, either before season or mid-season, or they're struggling to even fill a lineup. We are doing the opposite. So that's something to be very happy about, again, thank you. So I used 2017 and 2022 for numbers, but I do want to talk about what our overall goal is athletically. If you're in athletics, you've heard these 4 words plenty of times: care, commitment, work, and team. Those are the 4 pillars of success that we preach every day to our student athletes. And that's not just to be great in athletics, but that's to be great upon graduation. No matter what they do in life, if they bring these 4 things with them and understand what they are, they will be successful. Whether it's going to college, going to the Marines, going to a job, they need to have these 4 things. All of us who have had success have had these 4 things. So we preach these every day. And we want to touch as many kids as we can, because if we can teach 500 kids a year these 4 things, that's 500 more kids that are going to have a chance of being successful in the game. So we want to maximize participation, but we want to maintain high standards and expectations. And then we do that because, again, we want to extend the classroom and impact them, but also we want to remain competitive. And I think that's important to know. So you will see increased numbers here, which is phenomenal, but we still have these goals, and we still say these are. Using the data, I got averages. All right, we'll start with our opportunities. First at the unified level. This past fall, we added unified soccer. A push from Dr. Douglas and support from the board. A great thing that we, as Horse says, were able to spearhead in Section 4. And actually, we're the first ones to have it in New York. That's amazing, and it allows our unified athletes to have 3 full seasons, just like anyone else. So phenomenal thing that we added. Again, other schools aren't doing this. Bowling and basketball, they've been there for a while, and our numbers are very good there. In the fall, you'll see our different levels. You'll see the students impacted. throughout those seasons, fall, winter, and spring. We did have some additions, so girls flag football has picked up big at the state. We again jumped on that as soon as we could. And right now in the winter, girls wrestling. We host the first girls wrestling event in New York State history. We have the biggest team in Section 4. Kudos to our current wrestling coaches and obviously the district for supporting that. But impacting a large number of students at the varsity level only. At the JV level, all right, our teams go down a little bit because some sports don't offer junior varsity. But again, still impacting a pretty large number of students. And then at the modified level, this is where you'll see in a second our greatest growth has been at the modified level. This comes from the philosophy of increasing participation while maintaining high standards. But you'll see our numbers there. Again, close to 400. Okay, so just some kind of data here. You'll see in the last 3 years our numbers have increased in total participants. Again, that goes against the trend in this area. It's something that we're very proud of, but we did grow in the last 3 years. Another way to look at it, as you can see, 2019-20 is going to be your lowest because that spring we didn't have any athletics, so your number's going to be down. But we have slowly got back to pre-pandemic numbers, and that's where we want to be. We want to exceed those numbers, and right now we are on path to do so. This is by season, so it'll show you every season that has gone up as well, except for that 2021-22 season. We did go down by 9, and our football numbers were pretty low that year, and that's coming back. So that's not easy.
Well, if I can step in, one of the things the board needs to realize is, remember, 2020, 2021, we were just reopening and there was a lot of limitations that kids, families just said not at this point, and they stayed away. And we could certainly feel it, but by the end of the year, that season that was dropped the year before, those families were, we didn't get our season, we're coming out, and that's where I think it really started to take off. We had some lingering effects in the fall, but for the most part, a lot of it is starting to just grow.
Well, that was the year that all 3 seasons happened in the spring.
Yeah.
You had those condensed times, yeah.
And we still had restrictions last fall too,
Okay.
so that impacts it as well. So overall, data shows that athletics is impacting the large majority of our student athletes. In worse sense, I don't think that comes as a surprise, but it should make everyone feel very good that those numbers are continuing to rise. Participation numbers are higher than pre-pandemic expectations. And I believe that's because of the philosophy change, wanting to get more people involved, expanding rosters when possible, especially at the modified level, and of course adding those opportunities that we talked about earlier. You know, we're in the business to impact as many kids as possible. We're doing that. Then these extracurricular hours.
Yes.
Is that my wheelhouse?
That's right. Very brief aside. This is just a baseline number starting with our current data of the number of students impacted by the variety of activities we offer outside the school day. It becomes a presentation upon itself if we were to present each of these clubs and what they do. I think as a splash to see what there is important to view the numbers of students impacted. You can see that after by the elementary school. It's there with intent that I think we have some work to do there. As far as what does that look like in the future to engage our students in the elementary level outside the school day. We do have a variety of events, and PTOs are amazing opportunities for our kids. The intramural program that we're building up, we have the morning gym in one particular location, increasing those efforts. And having some more district run. Again, it comes out of the capacity of the resources, and making sure we have people in place to offer some opportunities. For instance, we look forward to expanding 4th grade or musical and plays in our elementaries, especially with the building project and the 3 different buildings that we'll have, and looking at musicals and plays at the 4th grade level, or upper elementary level, their involvement there. So there's an example of growth that we're looking at on top of the intramurals and some of the opportunities, kids, student government, etc. at those levels. I did ask the principals to be here for questions about any particular area or aspect before we move off this close.
My science is weak. What's the difference between VEX robotics and ROV robotics?
I think I need the course catalog in front of me to remember the difference.
Vex is
Who we got?
VEX is they program robots for just on any surface. The ROV is the robotic underwater vehicle to complete tasks underwater. So we do have some parents running that right now. And they use the high school pool. They go over on Thursdays after they've spent the first couple weeks building the robot, and then they come over here to be able to use the robot underwater.
Wasn't it in 2018 our intermediate school team beat the high school teams across the district? That's what I thought. I remember that. I remember that.
They did.
Thank you for that, Warren. I can't keep them straight. And they're amazing to watch. One started out of Perkins grants like a decade ago, and we've been lucky enough to continue that and offer that as a program for our students.
All right, code of conduct. So we just saw how many students we impact, and the code of conduct. Every student in 7th grade is subject to the code of conduct in athletics. Last year, my first year, the A&E committee, we took on looking at that code of conduct, specifically the academic piece, which was eye-opening to me, to make it better and make it stronger than what it was. So I want to make sure you guys are aware of what that academic code of conduct is. And I want to thank the A&E committee for their work prior to presenting this. They did a great job, everybody involved. I think we created something pretty good. So again, we focused on the academic expectations. We made some changes. We, one, made sure that this code applies to all extracurricular activities, not just athletics. So if you are in green room players or marching band, you are held to the same code. Everybody is. So that's a huge change. Second, biggest one, academic expectations are more objective versus subjective. You'll see that in a moment. And then another one I'm very proud of is we've expanded it to the middle school level. Our middle school athletes have never been held to a code of conduct academically, which was surprising to me. So that's a big change. It's something we've started. So very, very good change. This is the new one. Okay, this is the new expectations. There are 3 levels. It is done by your grade. We pull it at the 5-week marking period. Again, this is high school and middle school. It's very, very objective. The grade is a grade. If you have a grade that is failing, you get, if you have a grade that's a D, we are going to give a warning letter home to you and your parents, providing resources for you to improve that grade. Making sure they understand we are paying attention to everyone, even if you're not failing. If you are failing just one grade, you will be assigned academic study hall. It's not pleasant to come in the morning, but it's necessary and it's effective. You go in for 5 weeks, but we created the blue sheet. The blue sheet is an opportunity for student athletes in level 2 or extracurricular students to get out. If they improve their grade, they get this signed by their teacher. Again, the teacher just puts the current grade. If it's passing, you are removed from that academic study hall. A harsh reminder of how important academics is. Level 3 is 2 courses failing. You're assigned to that same study hall, but you do not get the opportunity to get out. And that is because 2, we're going to consider a serious issue, maybe a bigger issue than needing a reminder to turn your stuff in on time. All right, but this is the new expectations. This is far, far different than what it used to be. Thank you.
I want to ask a question on level 2.
Yes.
I'm a troubled student academically in social studies in Mr. Conklin's class.
That's not surprising.
Okay. I'm in football. My 5-week grade comes out. I'm failing Warren's class like with a 64, 63, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I go in the first week, and Mr. Conklin, hey, how you doing? Da, 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 and I drive him nuts, and all of a sudden, I turn in all my work, I get caught up, and Mr. Conklin signs that blue sheet and says, yes, he's passing now. But I'm only 1 week into that 5 weeks. And then all of a sudden, what happens to me, because say I'm off, as I'm seeing there, then I say, hey, Mr. Conklin, we'll see you in 4 more weeks. How is that taken into consideration?
Well, once you become, the old policy would put you in for 5 weeks no matter what. So a student in this situation really is not a student who's troubled academically. They need a reminder of responsibility, time management. That's what they need, and that's what will be provided. Once they get it passing, we don't want to hold it over their head as we're not rewarding you for getting your act back in shape, which they are. So we send them out. Unfortunately, we wait until the next 5 weeks to pull grades. If we did, we'd have to pull grades every
And
day.
that's the reason why I'm asking it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for Mr. Conklin to hold it over my head, but I believe our efforts are to try to make sure that that child does not fail again, or at least is moving forward. That is there a release mechanism that if I'm only there for Mr. Conklin, and I got passing, but Mr. Conklin knows I'm going down the road real quick to do the same thing to see him the next 5 weeks, is there that option, or at least consider something for the teacher that they're there, so that they get the, I can help you, but please, let's keep it moving and develop that relationship.
Yeah, and I would say it's not perfect. We just started this, and obviously there's going to be adjustments we talked about in the AD committee. I do think that, that has come up, right? Like a kid's failing, he gets passing, and then all of a sudden he starts going down that slippery slope again. I do think we can create a mechanism to allow for some communication. We do communicate with our teachers on the reg in terms of who's in, who's out, where they're at, but we do not have a mechanism in place for that. That really hasn't been what we've seen.
Not that I'd ever think Mr. Conklin would let me off that easy.
Yeah. But we haven't seen the slope back. We haven't seen that as much in the data.
Is there an opportunity, and I don't know if school has this capability or not, but instead of it being every 5 weeks you're pulling a report, could it be something that if there's an automatic, as soon as you have, like you enter in at the beginning of the season, here's all the students that are in extracurriculars or in athletics, and then you automatically generate an email goes to you or somebody in your office that says this student just fell below 63. That way it could be like an ongoing rolling
I don't
coming
know.
into
I don't
academic
know if that
cycle.
exists, to be honest with you. I don't know. But
It
it
doesn't,
doesn't.
but
It
it's
doesn't.
something obviously to take note of.
Yeah, it's something important.
To make an automated system would be wonderful.
Right.
That would be incredible. For sure.
And just to clarify, so assuming a student reaches level 2 or 3, and then they're in the academic study hall, during that period of time, are they then ineligible to participate in extracurricular activities, or is this, they can still participate, but they have to meet these expectations?
So at this time, if you're level 2, you can still participate. Because we still want to be able to reach those student athletes in those extracurriculars. We still want to reach them daily, right? To promote our character commitment work and team and teach those characteristics. But level 3 initially was created, and the description was you are not allowed to practice or participate if you're level 3. We went back at the beginning of the year, and because this is a new policy and it is a completely different policy, 180 from what it was, we took that restriction off level 3 for your first time. If you get level 3 2 times in a row, that's different. If you get it 2 times in a row, we check your grade after 2 weeks. During that 2 weeks, you cannot practice, you cannot participate, and at that 2-week mark, if you're still failing, then you're removed. And that's because obviously there's an issue handling both. But right now, yes, you can practice and participate at all levels except for level 3. Okay. Second.
Not that I think this would be an issue with 3-sport athletes, but have you dug in to see like what happens if you're doing, I'm thinking track, cross country, and outdoor track, like those are very easy 3 sports. What happens, like does it transfer from semester to semester? Do you, like does it follow you around? How's that all work?
Yes, that was something important we talked about. We do hold them, yes. What happens in the fall, someone was in study hall, their season ended, they stopped going to study hall, and then thinking, oh, I'm just going to try out basketball now. Wrong. You're still held to it, you're still in the code of conduct. So we do hold it to them 100%. We hold it for sure. The old policy, by the way, it's not in this presentation, but the old policy was very subjective, and everything went to the teacher. The teacher made the decision whether someone was in or out, and it was based on their interpretation of the effort that was being provided. So a kid could have an 85, but the teacher could say, your effort, you should have a 95. And they could put them in study hall and keep them there for 4 weeks without leaving based on their interpretation of effort. I met with all the teachers, and overwhelmingly, they didn't want that responsibility. It puts them in a really tough spot. They don't want to take things away from kids. But at the same time, they're the ones that are doing it. And it created a lot of animosity. So they were very thankful to take it out of their hands. And all they have to do is put their grades in. And back to your point of pulling the grades randomly, the reason we do 5 weeks is because teachers have to have their grades in at the 5 week. If I pull it every week, a teacher may not put their grades in right away. So I may not see changes at all, or I may see drastic changes. So we do the 5 weeks because teachers have to have their grades in at that time. So it just creates a consistency. So we've done this now for 2 marking periods. We're in our 3rd marking period now, but this is the first marking period what it looked like. 44 at the high school, 29 at the middle school. I thought the middle school actually would be a little bit higher because they've never had a policy before. But they had 29 people impacted. We have created the morning study hall down at the middle school. We have an advisor down there. We have proctors down there. Been going very, very smoothly. High school, been happening for a long time and continues to be effective. Compare this to the 2nd marking period, and this is where you'll see that initial effect. Is it working or is it not? 2nd marking period, all the numbers went down. High school number only went down 3, but the levels became less severe. Middle school drastically cut over 50%. So kids at the middle school level got that notice really quickly. If I don't do my work, I'm going to be held accountable. So the impact is there and it's being felt.
What does blue mean?
That's the blue sheet. Those are the people, those are the students who are able, level 2 now. Right? 17 of those kids were eligible to get out every single week. 12 of them got out. 5 of them, they kept trying, but they never got out. And that's because the grade determines it, nothing else. So they never were able to get that up passing throughout that 5 weeks. Same thing at the middle school, right? 5 of them were in, 2 of them were able to get out. So very happy with the data, and again, it's putting academics at the forefront where it should be through our athletic program and through our community. Again, here's a comparison. Kind of verbally told you this, but you can see all the orange, which marked period 2, has gone down. That's a great thing. So to bring it all together, again, we talked about a lot of different things. Our goal is to provide opportunities to positively impact students. Those opportunities start with our phys ed curriculum, and then they expand through a lot of the different things we mentioned tonight. Intramurals being the big one, clubs being another, and other extracurricular opportunities as well. So we want to take that phys ed curriculum, take all the positives there, expand it, and then also use athletics as an extension as well. That's connected to those 4 pillars, of course, but also all those positive things that phys ed offers. We use that code of conduct to not only provide the opportunities, but to hold students accountable in those opportunities and make sure that academics become the priority, which I believe it is. I don't want to say it's not, but I think changing the policy has brought that back to where it should be. And academics is always going to be our priority. Any questions at all? Regarding athletics, participation, how much phys ed?
I think the focus on data is great, and being able, I think this is the first time we've ever seen those academic study hall numbers and kind of the trends that we're seeing, so I think that's really nice to keep looking at that and keeping track of that, so thank you for that. That's nice.
Yep.
As a member of the Athletics and Extracurricular Committee, just to go back to the academic code of conduct, not only about the shortcomings of the initial one, but the amount of conversation that was just generated here far surpassed the length of the original code of conduct. So where this stands now to what it was there's not even a comparison. And, it's amazing to be a part of that
And
process.
thank you for your work on that. That was very good. Yes.
I think the code of conduct is excellent because it's consistent and it doesn't take in the impression or the feeling of any particular teacher. It's the same across the board. The students know what it is, it's out there, and they have to show responsibility. And I just want to make kind of a personal mom comment. I had a son who was actively involved from middle school through varsity sports, went on to play D1 football. And now with his job, he often gives motivational speeches and talks about sports, leadership, responsibility, time management, working together with others, and so forth, and how he feels he had learned so much on the football field. Sometimes he even says more than the classroom, which I don't think his university probably appreciates him saying, but the value of playing on a team and how it helps him with his career. So bravo to all of your efforts.
All the other people. That's good. Yeah.
Have we had any issues with students not having the appropriate transportation to get to athletic cycle?
We have, and those are case-by-case situations. They come to me. I talk to them and make sure that it's a legit thing. If it is, we make accommodations. We make accommodations. We have made accommodations at the middle school level and high school. Again, we don't look at this as a punishment and tell the kids that. It's not a punishment. This is a reminder that we're here to support you, and this is an opportunity for you to improve. So, yeah, we are very flexible with that, and again, we're going to hold them accountable. Though. We want to make sure they're there. They can. Yeah, we do.
Do you do sport goals for each team as far as averages go?
Well, I do an overall.
Okay.
So I'm not going to get Dr. Douglas started on this. Okay? Last year we were a school of excellence, which is basically 75% of our athletic teams were scholar athletes. Right? This year our goal is to be a school of distinction, 100% perfect in academics. So that is a program goal. I don't talk individual with those teams, but I do send my coaches their updates every 5 weeks. This is where your team's at. And I will tell you that our winner, they went 5 for 8 last year. They are 9 for 9 in the winter. So we are perfect 100% right now. Pressure on the spring, but yes, of course, we always have goals. And if I don't bring home that award, that doesn't.
And as a parent of a student that is in multiple sports, the coaches, they are on that. I mean, there are coaches that will talk about it constantly at practices and making sure that the students are. So the coaches are pretty competitive in it as well.
Little peer pressure goes a long way.
Yeah.
I think it's an overall end of the year award for the highest team.
Well, Corny got distinction too, so.
No, I mean internal at our end of the year award.
Oh, yeah.
Whoever's our scholar team with the highest, but
They do love that. They don't want to sit there. Anybody else?
frankly.
Just a quick comment. I agree with the comments about the building in the objectivity into the study hall process, and then I think what you talked about with respect to the physical education curriculum in high school and the allowing students to kind of choose the path that interests them the most, kind of making it more productive for them and beneficial. I think that's a great improvement. And the idea of trying to maximize participation, particularly at the modified levels, balanced against the goal of being competitive. But I think that's the right balance to strike. So, those are all very positive steps. So thank you for that. Of course.
Can you talk really quick? You didn't mention the strand choosing and how they can't just sail one strand rule.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a good something you should mention
about that. So we do make the kids pick a different strand every time.
Yeah.
But they start with where they really are comfortable. And I think part of that curriculum and part of what our teachers do is they use the motivation that the kids bring, and they try to redirect that to build that motivation for another stream. And they also use the tools that they learned and that they love, and they use it in those other streams too. I mean, they're each very, very important. It's like lifelong opportunities in all of them. So we do make that happen. Yeah, like, thank you guys so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Usually we end this one with what's next. We do kick off the budget season at our next board meeting. Any thoughts on
Yeah, that's what I'd ask for the board. Remember, as we get into the budget season, pretty much February to April, we have the presentations all on budget and so forth. One of the things I would ask is there anything, we started with data, we've been going with data, is there anything else we're missing so that we can try to line up for our May and our June presentations? You don't have to answer now, but if you'd like to, feel free, or send me an email or Terry, and then I'll compile it, and then we'll talk about it. We've got a little time. I'm just trying to get ahead of the game with Tony.
One thing, Tom, before we forget, or not send an email, is that when we did the board tours, I remember, I think it was last year, the middle school had a science Olympiad that they were doing some extra things on. I think there was a lot of extracurricular from the academic perspective too, and they were talking about making catapults and things like that. And kind of seeing those little spotlight things beyond the extra, the curriculum itself, but the extras that come from that. Nice.
I was going to say, what I really appreciated about this presentation was seeing the trends broken out in a couple different ways. With my data mind, you're happy to see the charts plus the arrows and all that, and the comparison data too.
Yeah, just as a topic potentially, or some type of, maybe around, I know there've been some changes, or at least discussion of changes with respect to Regents exams and graduation requirements, and what is required, and what isn't, and you know, where have we been trend-wise. That whole topic to me would be something of an interesting presentation to just make sure we're, you know, I for one, not sure I'm completely current on where things are.
We might be able to get an update because actually at the state level, they're working on it. We don't know where they're going. But we do know this, they just moved up the timeline by 1 full year. So it won't affect and impact the students that enter high school as a freshman next year, but they plan on having the new requirements in for the freshmen of 24. And it's a 4-year requirement. So I think we can try to, towards the end of the year, give an update where the state's at, what are our expectations, and we might even be able to talk a little bit about some of the new initiatives that the regents are trying to do in the area of instruction, APPR curriculum as well. Thanks. Others? Pretty much have we been on the right track from what the board has asked?
Yeah, I think the presentation for that.
Well, thank you. If you have anything, please just email me, Terry, and we'll get started on that topic.
Okay. All right, next up, superintendent.
Thank you, President Dale. I have several things, but I'll try to hit them quick. There's a variety of things going on either with construction or positions in the state, as well as our potential shift in construction and opening and moving from 4 elementary schools to 3. So several things sort of tie in together, such as census, our elementary shift timeline, but as well as how do we plan for the next phase of the capital project planning. Because when we started in 2017, it took us a little time to get going. Once you get into it, and we were just shortly into the 2017 approval project, we got that set and really hit the road. We had to start with the 2021 project. So that's what we're actually working on now. And if you notice, usually you start doing every 3rd year. So we're probably looking at something that we will
start having some discussions around for the fall of 2024 or late fall of 2024 to get ready to have potentially the financial package set for the next project that would start around 26, 27. So it's sort of setting the ball in motion to continue what we've been doing. We're in phase 2. We're coming to the end of phase 1. We're already starting phase 2. And in phase 2, that deals with the elementary shifts, the census shift, and so forth. So for the Board of Education as well as the community, the district has already coordinated a contract to look at how do we start to develop our boundaries with our transportation company, that's Tyler Technologies that we've talked about. I know our business office, we've been talking, we are getting ready to put out an RFP or a request for proposal for census, demographics, and the study of our birth rates and projections for the district, because we have to look at that from the year of 2025, those students that would enter there, and the next 5 years to try to actively set up valid boundaries that balances out the schools, tries to balance out the social economics. So in order to do that, that RFP is getting ready to go out, and we are hoping to have both companies under contract to be able to start our work towards the end of this year, but primarily during the next year, to have the boundary discussions by the end of next year in June from their recommendations. That would be the 23-24 school year. The reason why that's important is once we know the boundaries, then we have to start dealing with the shifting and assignment of sections to each of the buildings, the upheaval of our staff, which we will try to keep to a minimum, but we are going to probably target the fall of 24 of assigning staff there. But we also have to keep in mind retirements help that situation in that hiring process. With the hope that by the Christmas break, as long as nothing goes wrong in the construction timeline, we would have our boundaries. We would pretty much know the staff that's on hand that would be going to the 3 district buildings, and the families would know where they live within those boundaries where the shift, and there will be shifts. But what happens is everybody will have probably 6 to 7 to 8 months before that September of 2025 comes to prepare for it. And then once that shift goes on, we will have one additional shift. And that's because really in construction, we already know we're getting ready to start Big Flats and we're getting ready to start Gardner Road about a month behind. The primary reason is our construction managers have to make sure that we have the professional staff and the labor staff to be able to do that amount of construction and step through. Trying to do 3 elementaries, we've already said, is impossible when it's too much money in too short a time. The elementaries will take roughly 2 years to complete. Now, if you look at that, that would be Gardner Road 2 years, Ridge Road 2 years, Big Flats 2 years. We only have about 5 years, and we have to plan that. Plus, we have the high school, middle school, and everything else. So right now, Gardner Road and Big Flats are getting ready to start, and the primary reason is the vast majority of their additions are external to the building, where when we go internal, we can use the summers and some disruptions in the second year. So that's what's getting ready to start. The hard part is they had to figure out how to do Ridge Road, because Ridge Road is unique because their boiler system, their gym, their cafeteria, and their library are all connected right together. And they are absolutely in the center mass of the building, that they cannot just shut down the building and allow students to be in there without a boiler and that. So they came to us a long time in the discussions of how do we do this, and they basically have settled on that Ridge Road will have to be constructed in 1 full year. And to do that, they have to shutter the building, and Ridge Road would, for 1 year, be Ridge Road at Center Street. So that's why September 2025 is important, because in 2 years, that's where we will make the shift to the 3 schools. But one of the things the Ridge Road family will have is they will be at the Center Street, which will house roughly 525 students, which we have done tabletop after tabletop on making sure with some accommodations across the district. But the biggest piece about that is the fact that those students won't necessarily experience the construction like the Big Flats and Garden Road students, because they're going to actually have construction going on during the educational day. Because most of theirs is outside and does not critically bring down the building. So those are some of the things that we were planning on, but that's why we have to step through it. With stepping through it, we all know inflation. That's the only thing that could go wrong. But the board, the administration, have dedicated ourselves that the elementaries are going to be built without the reduction. So that's one of the things we wanted to make sure, and we're going around with Snapchats and letting people know, and we will start communicating that out, that timeline, and we want to just do it here. One is it's recorded like we've always done for Prosperity, so that people can say, hey, we've been talking, discussing it over time. Some of the other things that our community really needs to know is that as we go through the next couple of years, there's a requirement in the state that we must switch our bus fleet to a fully carbon neutral electronic voltage vehicles. We do not have any clue how this is going to play out. All we know is at this point, there is a law that says we have to do it and there are regulations. We will be looking at exploring some grant options, but the significant cost that's associated with EV transportation overhaul is something that districts cannot bear. And that's my own personal feeling, but I also know if I tell everybody the numbers and we're doing that discussion during the transportation portion of the budget. A bus that right now costs us $140,000, $150,000 is probably going to be 3 to 4 times that amount as an electric vehicle. And that's going to be some of the challenges. Now, unofficially, the state says they're going to fund all this. But the way we work is we have to fund it first, and they give us the money back. That's the hard part. I don't know how they can do that, because if it's subject to voter approval, most superintendents anticipate their whole community will not be able to necessarily pallet the amount of money that this is going to bring. There are major grants, and because of that, we are trying to get through our process of our grant position. We're in the process, I think, of getting ready to interview, correct? So you'll be seeing that shortly. That's to help us out, and we're going to try to maximize that so we can at least experiment with electric vehicles and our transportation center. But we do expect the laws to change a little bit, but we do still expect New York State to sort of plow ahead, just maybe not on the timeline that they have in 2027. So just want to make sure constantly letting people know. We want to welcome our newest SRO officer, who is a retired state trooper. He is out at, what school is it? Big Flats. And I forgot his name because I did not write it down. Trooper Campbell, but he is now Officer Campbell. And he's getting his indoctrination to pre-K through 4th grade. And I'm sure he's loving it because it's better than road stops and investigations. So at least I hope it is. So we want to welcome him, and we want to thank the Village of Horsets for continuing along their path as we work out our contract. I know Katie's doing that. And then, let's see, I pretty much hit most. The last thing is we've been working on our district logo and communication and trying to develop a new image for the district, for the mascot of what it best represents a Blue Raider. Today, as of today, and the submissions end at the end of the month, we have over 14 to 15 different images at this point, I think. I think several are starting to come in right now, and that's what I've been told, so we'll be having some updates on that probably in February once it closes, just to bring us to the next step. And I want to congratulate, not calling any team out, but our girls wrestling team for the year that they've been having, even our boys wrestling team, but in general, their dynamics, their enthusiasm in doing something that's entirely new. You've got to look at the pictures when you see them online. It's like, I know Mr. Filippo's daughter is on the team, and she doesn't know I'm going to say this. I told her today, I said, what I love seeing? I love looking at the picture and I see your daughter there. And she's always just as smiling and happy, and you can see it in all the kids' faces that they are getting this opportunity. And it just reminds me, that's what education, that's what sports are about, is these opportunities. And I just want to congratulate them on the initial season, but also all of you for allowing us to do that, and thank you. And I will tell you, we are going to be trying to bring girls state championship to the southern tier. If possible, if NISBA still likes me by then, just because of the fact we're one of the bigger participants. We've got some great efforts and opportunities going. So let's get it out of just sort of the Albany area. Let's bring it to the state, and we'll welcome them in with open arms. So thank you for that opportunity. I think that's everything for right now, and best of luck to our boys tonight as they're taking on Elmira.
Okay, thank you. Board reports, I don't have anything specific. We do not have an audit committee meeting, so I'm just going to turn it over to the policies.
Yeah, I'll cover that. Excuse me, we met on January 12th, and we had 4 policies that we reviewed for first reading. You can see listed in the minutes, one of which there are minor changes to 3, and then one of which we're recommending be deleted in its entirety and folded into one of the other policies in our continuing effort to streamline and make more efficient our policies. There are 4 policies also before the board at second readings that are listed, and I don't think we had any additional changes discussed in the meeting, so they reflect the edits from the first reading. And then for the good of the order, the only item discussed was that apparently the district, as part of our use of board docs for the housing of our board meeting materials, we also have the ability to directly house our policies on that same site and make them available to the public that way. That there be some efficiencies in doing that. So the district's going to continue to look at that as an option.
There will be a slight cost, but the cost is more for labor and manpower to make sure it's formatted easily to be read for all of our policies. But the nice part about it is our policies are online, and hopefully will draw other people when they look at our board meetings, that if they need it, they can do it instead of going through SharePoint, which can be several times. Plus, they can search the policy much easier.
So it would just be a one-time cost then?
Yeah.
Just the initial setup?
Yes.
And that's the review from the policy committee meeting.
Okay, thank you. Next up, our finance items for action. We have 8.02 through 8.14. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any comments or questions about any of these?
I'll just abstain on 8.13.
I have a question about 8.06. I think I know the answer. As far as the budget transfers report, the print shop here, I presume, is the postage print shop? Okay. In that case, as opposed to employee, to avoid the appearance of impropriety, I'll be abstaining on 8.06, 8.08, and 8.09.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor of 8.02 through 8.14, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And any abstentions, we have Warren on 8.13, and then Doug on 8.06, 8.08, and 8.09. Thank you. Our HR recommendations, 9.02, can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions on these? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? All right, so I'd like to congratulate, we actually have 6 people that we just approved for retirement. So congratulations to Joan Pierce, Lisa Bees, Catherine Anderson, Donna Weber, Marianne Callahan, and Mary Miller. So thank you for all of your years of service to the district. And even though you'll still be with us through the rest of the school year, we wish you well and hope you enjoy your time. Excited. Okay, our miscellaneous items for action, 10.02. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any comments or questions there? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? All right, our board policies for second reading, we have 11.02 through 11.05. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any Any comments or questions on any of these 4 policies? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? All right, we have 4 policies up for first reading, 12.01 through 12.04. No vote tonight, but any comments or questions to take back to the policy committee on these policies? Okay, thank you. And then lastly, I want to open it up to any board comments. Okay.
In the weekly newsletter update, I just want to commend Chris Chavone and the choral department for their recognition of Chuck Griffith. I was a parent. Both 2 of my children were very active in the choirs. He is an amazing gentleman. He was an amazing music teacher, and I just think it's a wonderful. I was very sad to read that he is ill, but I think it's a wonderful thing that Chris has spearheaded for Mr. Griffith's honor.
It was nice that we can live stream, which makes
Oh,
it
it's
even
wonderful.
better. So.
Yes.
I have a couple comments that I just want to say. First of all, a couple really neat things. I know Dr. Douglas mentioned about the girls wrestling team, and it is pretty neat to see their enthusiasm as they bring a whole new dynamic when they're around the boys too, which is really cool. But we had Southern Tier, who was really lucky to host the first annual Southern Tier Memorial Tournament at First Arena last week. And it drew in teams from Florida, from Ohio, Pennsylvania, all throughout New York State. And I think all of you would have been really proud at the showing the Horseheds had at that. They were wrestling against, state champions both in New York State as well as in Florida, and it was really significant. And we had many wrestlers make it to the second day. We had many wrestlers both on the boys and on the girls team make the podium. Which was really cool. So, congratulations to all of those wrestlers and families. And yes, I am partial because I do have a wrestler, but it was really cool to see that and to see Horseheads so well represented and even working. Many of our wrestlers that weren't wrestling were working the tables. They were helping. They were volunteering, all with smiles on their faces and just well represented. So I think all of us would have been really proud to see that. And then I also, on the same line, I just want to thank Dr. Douglas. We hear a lot from public around, are we pushing back on the state? Are we advocating for our students? And it came to the district's attention recently that the girls wrestling state tournament was going to be it was scheduled for the same day as a Regents, which is the last day of Regents. And the times didn't conflict, but it basically meant that a Regents ended and the wrestling tournament started like minutes later up in Syracuse, right? And so as soon as Dr. Douglas found out about that, he has been relentless in the emails and the letters and the phone calls that he's been making to multiple people at the state level that this cannot happen in the future and that we need to be making different accommodations. And our district is able to provide, at least be able to support our team members on the girls' team to try to help them from an emotional and social well-being and to help with their physical health as well. But it is something that, I just want to thank Dr. Douglas because he has been relentless in really pushing back on that. So thank you very much. And then the last thing that I just want to bring up as just a consideration for, if there's a possibility, and I've talked to Dr. Douglas about this as well, just listening to Mr. Detay's presentation tonight around athletics and extracurriculars, I think we have an opportunity in this district to really do a better job in fundraising coordination across our clubs, our athletics, or even like the different grade levels. There's a lot of extra fundraising that happens, and I've been hearing a lot around, okay, well, what's the school responsible to pay for versus what's the team or the club or responsible for? But there's been, I think we're on fundraising overload, and I think there's an opportunity there. And again, I don't know, who should lead that or how we should address it, but it is something that I think it needs to be addressed, and there needs to be some level of guidelines or understanding or something around that.
Katie's smiling at me. I'm
I see
not nominating Katie. But what I am doing is because that could almost be a full-time job, it seems.
Yeah.
But it's something that we will look at because something's been brought to our attention that we might have a couple opportunities with some staff that, outside the work day, that this could potentially help.
And I'd be more than happy to help. I have a passion around that and just in general, so. But, and I don't have anything else. Anybody else?
Last night, I had the pleasure of going to the middle school choir and band concert. I must say I was most impressed by the student talent to take a line from Doug, to avoid impropriety. My daughter is one of those choir people that I was impressed by. But second of all, and there again, from the board perspective, we've seen the cafeteria. We've seen it multiple times. But I was able to be with people that night and today who saw it for the first time. And the real fun part was bringing to their attention the difference in the tiling and said, yeah, we're sitting in the courtyard. Or to say that, yeah, that most of that stage was the Sing Sing Road Elementary cafeteria, to use those old terms. And it was pretty much was a sober, person. And to be able to see people who utilize some of this stuff from phase one is just amazing. And to know that the public is also having that same enthusiasm that we do as a board to see these capital projects being done and seeing how they relate to the old school, no pun intended. And just a great experience, and thank you for everyone on that.
No, I just to add, I think that's important because I was telling you for the next project, we knew we could possibly get the approval on one. We got it overwhelming on the second one. We still got a very overwhelming, almost, the average between the two projects is up near 79% approval. They're starting, I believe what you said, they're starting to see that return on investment, and that it's not just for now, it's for the future generations, their kids' generations and so forth, that's one of the things going into the third project. That's to really bring the overall and make sure everything gets done, K through 12 in that third project, and really tie it all together. It does take time. We even said it would take anywhere from 10 to 15 years. But that third project, once we get it going and that gets approved, we're trying to manage money, but what they saw in that cafeteria, what they're seeing in our hallways, what they're seeing in the library, what they're seeing in the stadium, will be in every student's classroom, every student's school. And we just want to thank them that they stay with it. I believe the team that we've assembled this board will totally renovate this whole district by 2032. And for the next 50 to 60 years, all the funds that they invested will recycle and regularly keep the district going on every 5-year path. So I want to commend you, but also, it's hard when you don't see the products, but now they're starting to. As we finish this first phase, there will be another open house at the end of this semester. Even though the hallways won't totally be done on the floors, the vast majority of the work here will be done. And they'll start seeing the middle school, which I know everybody's waiting for. The middle school parking lot finally will be overhauled and done, and I hope I never hear another thing about it. But I want to thank the community, thank your comments, but that's the big thing, is get people out, bring them in. Our alumni, when they come back for Sue, the alumni, and she gives them a tour, they just look at it in awe. And I think even some of our alumni now coming back are saying, why didn't we do this when I was here? But hopefully it's enough to entice them back so that we get their generations going. So thank you.
And one thing for President Dale, I would suggest a future resolution by the board to make sure that no one sits in those metal chairs for more than 1 hour at a time, because they're metal chairs. Attention for more than an hour for that.
I got a play coming up that's an hour and a half.
Bring your own cushion.
Sounds good.
All right, anything else?
Just one thing. I wanted to thank the staff and the administrators who welcomed us with open arms on our visit. especially Ms. Malinowski and Ms. Murray, who let Yale infiltrate their classrooms and get to know their students really well. So thank you for welcoming us with open arms. That was really neat to see.
Okay. All right, that's it. I'd like to motion to adjourn to executive session.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you.
The motion to adjourn was for the discussion of individual personnel matters. There will be no action to follow. This concludes the January meeting of the Board of Education for the Worcester Central School District on January 19, 2020.